After traveling out west for 3 months, I got to see America's beautiful national parks. When the door opened for me to go to Springfield, Missouri to help start a new church, I was excited about finally not only getting ordained as a pastor, but also to be part of a fivefold ministry. I had great expectations. I arrived there, and to my surprise, after 6 months, the church that we went there to plant did not take root. Suddenly, I found myself in another crisis of belief, only this time I was completely out of money, praying feverishly, Lord, what do I do? When I first moved to Springfield, Missouri, I was staying with Brian McFarland, who was loosely connected to the church that we were trying to plant. I was paying him a couple $100 a month in rent. And then after 6 months, when the church did not plant and everybody went back to where they came from in Indiana and Kansas, suddenly I was there all alone with $50 left to my name. I was praying, Lord, what do I do? Brian was telling me that I needed to pay rent or I needed to move out. So I was going through another major crisis of belief. This time I'm praying, Lord, what do I do? Where do I go? There's no plan B. I don't have any way of getting back to Austin, Texas. I don't have a job. I was praying feverishly, Lord, what do I do? Suddenly, the Lord spoke a thought impression into my mind. It was again one of those knowing that I know that I know that I'm hearing from God. I looked to my right and I saw a picture of the Franciscan Villa apartments. And I heard the Lord speak a thought impression into my mind, which was, I want you to go there. I want you to go now. I don't want you to think about it. Just go. Well, I hadn't taken a shower. I hadn't shaved. But I grabbed my keys, jumped in my van, and started driving from Ozark, which is about a 20-minute drive, to Springfield, Missouri, to this place that I saw a picture of called the Franciscan Villa Apartments, which was an old reconverted hospital that was now a low-income housing facility. While I was driving there, I thought, well, I know what God is doing. He's going to plant me there, and then he's going to give me a job, and I'm going to be making money again, and I'm going to get reestablished. I was always really good at making money. And so since the church thing wasn't working out, I figured that I knew what God was doing. And so on the way, I turned around and called the office there. I thought, well, I'll just get some of the paperwork done in advance and get some of my questions answered so that I can go there and to make moving in there more quicker and easier. And when I called, the person I spoke to said, well, do you have a job? And I says, well, I've been trying to help start a church here. She says, so you don't have a job? I said, no, but I'm sure God's going to be putting me back to work. She says, well, you can't move in here unless you have a job. You have to have at least 3 months of pay stubs to be able to move in here. And I thought, well, okay, I know that I heard God clearly. I says, well, I'm coming there anyway because I feel like I'm supposed to come there, and I'd like to talk to you. And so when I hung up the phone, I was now going through another crisis of belief. Did God really speak to me? Did he really tell me to go to the Franciscan Villa Apartments? And I was tempted to turn around, but instead I drove there. And when I got there, I found out the person I was talking to was not the manager. And when I talked to the manager, she says, well, we do have a couple of transition housing rooms, but those are filled right now. But go ahead and fill out this application. And she says, you never know. And so I filled out the application and she showed me one of the rooms, and then I left. 3 days later, I was still praying, Lord, what do I do? I'm out of money. I have no plan B. What do I do now? And while I was praying, the Lord spoke to me again and says, you need to let Teresa know that she's supposed to do something. I kept praying, but the Lord didn't tell me anything more. So I had her contact information. I sent her an email and I said, Teresa, I was praying this morning and the Lord told me to tell you that you're supposed to do something. I have no idea if this has anything to do with me moving into the Franciscan Villa Apartments or something else, but I just know that I heard clearly from the Lord, you're supposed to do something. Well, that act of faith triggered an act of faith in her, because 3 hours later, I got an email back from her and then a phone call saying, would you be willing to work as a night security guard in exchange for a room, 3 hot meals a day down in the kitchen, and also your electricity, the basic necessities of life? Of course, I said yes. I only had $50 left to my name. When I moved in there, the third day I was there, I was praying, Lord, have I lost my mind? I've done everything you've asked me to do. I've taken all my savings, all my retirement money, everything that I own, and I've put it into ministry. Nothing has worked out the way that I thought it would work out. Have I lost my mind? Have I really been hearing from you, Lord? Have I been following myself or someone else? Then the Lord spoke to me again in another thought impression. Only this time it was, I want you to start teaching Bible studies here. Almost like an out-of-body experience, I got up off of my chair, I went over to the phone that connected me to the office downstairs, and I called Teresa, the manager there of the Franciscan Villa Apartments, and I said, Teresa, the Lord told me that He wants me to start teaching Bible studies here. You lead, I'll follow. Well, I could tell Teresa didn't know what to do with that call, so she said, okay, Jim, whatever you say, click. She hung up on me. Well, the next day, 3 widows that lived there went down to the office and to talk to Teresa, and she said, we feel led to start a Bible study, but we don't know anybody who's capable of teaching a Bible study. Do you know anybody who could lead a Bible study? Teresa called me up and she said, Jim, I wasn't sure what to think about your phone call yesterday, but will you come down to the office here because you're supposed to meet some people? It was in that moment that I knew that I was exactly where God wanted me to be, in Springfield, Missouri. I ended up being there for 3 years while God did a deeper work in me. Psalms 37, verse 23 and 24 say, the Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives. Though they stumble, they will never fall, for the Lord holds them up by His hand.